Tonight, look up at the vast expanse and imagine that the heavy city lights have all suddenly gone dark. For nearly the entire history of our species, the sky was not something you simply looked at in passing. You lived inside of it every single day, while the stars served as the most high-definition environment known. Today we treat the night sky like a distant painting in a cosmic museum that we only rarely visit. For 300,000 years, the stars were a vital survival tool, as necessary as a sharp stone or fire. When the sun dipped below the horizon, the atmosphere opened up into a terrifyingly beautiful map of the deep. To an ancient human, the stars were a biological necessity that dictated the flow of their entire social and religious. You must look at the human brain as a massive anticipation engine that evolved to predict the future state world. Our ancestors survived because they could accurately forecast exactly when the herds would arrive or the first frost would. On the Earth, everything is chaotic and the weather is unpredictable, but the sky offered the only perfect cycle. It was the first stable data set that humanity ever used to understand the true nature of time and seasons. Long before the invention of the wheel, we were practicing complex mathematics just by watching the rotating cosmic horizon daily. The movement of the stars provided a sense of absolute permanence in a world that was often very dangerous. The Ishango Bone discovered in the Congo dates back 20,000 years and represents a sophisticated lunar tallying system records. This tells us that even in the heart of the Ice Age, humans were performing a kind of celestial accounting. They tracked the moon not out of a sense of wonder, but as a matter of extreme biological and social. They understood that the moon's changing shape governed the movement of tides and the migratory patterns of the animals. They were synchronizing their very existence with the pulse of the solar system, using only their eyes and memory. Every notch on that bone represented a night of survival and a deep understanding of the lunar celestial phase. In ancient Mesopotamia, the Babylonians recorded the movements of the planet Venus with incredible precision over many hundreds of years. They created the Enuma Anu Enlil, which is a massive collection of thousands of omens based on celestial and atmospheric. These priests were the first professional astronomers who understood that the sky was a giant and predictable mathematical clockwork. They could predict lunar eclipses with startling accuracy long before the modern world even understood the basic laws of gravity. This knowledge allowed them to build complex irrigation systems and manage the agricultural output of their entire growing desert. Knowledge of the stars was the fundamental currency of power in the ancient cities of the Fertile Crescent Valley. In the Americas, the ancient Maya developed a calendar system that was more accurate than the one used in. They tracked the synodic period of Venus, which is 584 days, with almost perfect mathematical. Their buildings were often aligned to specific star rises to mark the start of the planting and the harvest. This deep astronomical knowledge was not just for priests, but served as the foundation of their massive urban civilization. They believed that the sky was a living entity and that every star was a character in a divine. The Maya collapse is even more tragic when you realize how much celestial data was lost to the forest. The stars also allowed the first great explorers to navigate across the trackless and dangerous oceans of the ancient. Polynesian navigators used a mental map of the stars to find tiny islands across thousands of miles of open. They memorized the rising and setting points of hundreds of different stars to maintain a perfectly straight-line sea. This ancient wayfinding technique is a testament to the incredible storage capacity of the trained and focused human mind. They did not need a compass because they could read the light of the stars like a glowing road. The ocean was not a barrier, but a highway for those who knew how to speak the silent language. There's a strange modern arrogance in the way that we view these ancient people, and they're supposedly limited. We think that because they lacked telescopes, they did not understand the complex physics of what they were seeing. But they understood the precession of the equinoxes, which is a slow wobble in the axis of the Earth. This cycle takes 26,000 years to complete, yet we find it embedded in many ancient sacred texts. Humans were passing down incredibly precise astronomical data for generations with a fidelity we can barely imagine in age. They recognized the slow shift of the constellations across vast spans of time that we often completely ignore now. The shift did not occur with the electric light bulb, but began with the internal enclosure of our daily. As we moved into cities and climate control boxes, we began to internalize our world and ignore the horizon. We replaced the vast narrative of the stars with the linear and flat narrative of the modern mechanical digital. We moved from universal time, based on the cosmos, to industrial time, based on the needs of the machine. Today we are living through a biological crisis because we have effectively erased the night from our daily lives. We have traded the infinite and the eternal for the immediate and the artificial glow of our modern. In the 18th century, a person could see the Andromeda galaxy, which is 2 million light years away from. Today, the average person is lucky to see the Big Dipper through the thick and orange haze of. This visual narrowing has had a massive psychological effect because we no longer see the true scale of the universe. The stars used to remind us every night that we were part of an incomprehensibly large and ancient. They provided a daily dose of awe that regulated our stress and our social cohesion for many thousands of years. We have lost the primary tool that kept the human ego in check against the vastness of space. Environmental psychology suggests that when humans are deprived of the night sky, we experience a specific and measurable. Our brains are still wired for that ancient perspective that we developed over hundreds of thousands of very long. We are still calibrated to look at the stars to understand our place in the chaotic and confusing world. Without them, we become trapped in the short-term loop of modern life and the constant pull-of. We focus on the next hour because we no longer have the visual cue of the infinite and ancient. Our mental health is suffering because we have severed our connection to the deep time of the cosmos. We like to think that we conquered the night, but in reality, we just hid from its vast scale. We built a glowing artificial dome over our civilizations and convinced ourselves that the world ends at the streetlights. Your ancestors stood on the edge of a dark ocean of space every single night of their entire. They knew the stars the way you know the streets of your neighborhood, and they saw a family tree. Tonight, if you find a dark place, sit until your pupils fully dilate, which is an ancient biological. This physical adjustment is your body remembering how to see in the world that existed before the electric. The ancient Egyptians built the Great Pyramids with shafts that pointed directly at the pole stars of their time. They believed the pharaoh's soul would travel through these shafts to join the circumpolar stars that never truly set. This was not mere superstition, but a deep desire to integrate human life into the eternal mechanics of the. By aligning their most massive structures with the stars, they were anchoring their civilization to the very fabric of. They understood that to be human is to be a part of a story that is written in light. Every stone was laid with a mathematical precision that reflected the harmony they saw in the rotating night sky. In ancient Australia, the Aboriginal people saw constellations not just in the stars, but in the dark, empty spaces. The great emu in the sky is a massive shape made from the dark dust lanes of the Milky. This shows a level of observation that goes beyond just looking at the bright points of light in night. They used these celestial shapes to track the breeding cycles of real emus on the ground for their survival. The sky was a living map that told them when to travel and when to gather for their ceremonies. Their culture has maintained this astronomical knowledge for over 60,000 years through songs and stories and deep. The Greeks gave us the names of many constellations we use today, like Orion, the Hunter, and the Great. But they were inheriting stories that were already thousands of years old by the time they wrote them down. The mythology of the stars was a way to process the chaos of human emotion by projecting it outward. We turned our heroes and our monsters into light so that we could never forget the lessons they taught. This was the first form of mass media where every person on Earth could watch the same show nightly. The stars were the original screen where we learned the values that would eventually build our entire modern world. You're looking at the oldest record of who you are as a member of the human species today. You're looking at the same sites that triggered the first philosophical thoughts in the developing human mind ago. The stars are still there waiting for us to remember exactly how to read their ancient and silent. We did not just lose a view, but the only mirror big enough to show us our true selves. The most terrifying part is that we have forgotten the sky was ever full of such brilliant light. We must learn to look up again if we ever hope to find our way back to ourselves. The stars are the only thing that connect you directly to every human who has ever lived or died. Your ancestors watched the same light from the same stars while they dreamed of the future that we inhabit. We are the stewards of a 300,000-year legacy of celestial observation and deep human cosmic. To ignore the stars is to ignore the very foundation of what it means to be a conscious human. Take a moment to step out of the light and let the darkness show you the true scale home. The universe is waiting for you to look up and remember your place among the glowing and distant.